You're listening to eBiz Radio, the place to go if you want to know about the world of business. For daily podcast and article uploads, go to ebizradio.com or follow us on Twitter at eBizRadioGlobal. My name is Nick Snow, and joining me for an edition of BizWise is Justin Hartman, Managing Director of iProspect. Justin, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to me. Of course, iProspect has just been crowned the #1 global digital performance agency by the Digital Agency Research Department. Of course, that is a massive achievement, so congratulations to you. I think the best thing to do is walk the listeners through what exactly iProspect does.
Excellent. Well, hi Nick, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and it's an honor to be involved. As you say, I mean, the award is it's a huge achievement globally for us, and I think from a South African context and Sub-Saharan Africa, it's a really important validation of the work that we do. So I'm super excited and super proud of the team for making that happen. And just in terms of our prospects as a business, we really, I guess part of our remit is to really provide digital performance for brands and companies.
Yes.
And, across that line, we look at various different things. So it's very driven around performance marketing. So looking at all, sort of thought media, which would be paid search, social media, how we look at advertising brands on that, and then driving the value and the performance around that. We have other areas where we look at creating bought media, sort of looking at the social aspects of it and how we actually deliver content for brands in the social space to help build that community engagement. And then we also look at different areas, around actually the digital properties that brands have and how we can maximize that for return. The ultimate objective for our prospect is fundamentally to drive that digital performance for brands and our customers. That's what we're after.
Brilliant. So you really want to help people redirect customers' feedback input to the company to ensure that they have all the information they need to enhance their business offering.
Absolutely, and I think it goes a step further, and certainly part of our mandate is to not only do that, but also help our customers get a single view of their customer and who is their customer and what are they doing, what are their habits online, where they're buying, what are they looking for, what are they interested in. And using that data and obviously creating relevance from that data, and then again driving that value back to the brand.
Yes. Now, of course, I imagine there's a lot of various factors that go into trying to do what you do. So, how did you guys manage to get the #1 spot? What differentiates you from other similar companies in the industry?
Well, look, I think if you kind of look at the index, it looks really at how agencies really structure the global footprint. So, iProspect South Africa forms part of a really large global network of agencies. And in Sub-Saharan Africa, we form part of the Dentsu Aegis network. So it really looks at that global footprint and looks at the kind of the four perimeters of expertise. So the four aspects in that would ultimately be customer engagement, the consultancy level, technology and production, and then search integration. So it's a factor of all of those and how on a global footprint that all that is put together to kind of create that network. So and through that you get a differentiating factor of what defines the #1 versus the #10.
Yes. Now, of course, being part of a larger group, the Dentsu Aegis group, as you mentioned, it gives you a whole lot of extra, I suppose, business resources to use. So how does the integration of that network assist iProspecting doing its job?
Yeah, and that's it's a good question, and it's a great sort of thing to look at. So here we look at really close integration between the sister agencies, Isobar, Cara, Visium, etc. And so we look at each of them has a unique value proposition, and we look at how we can provide value across the board within those agencies. So it's integration is difficult at the best of times, but I think we've managed to establish really good close working relationships with the other agencies in Dentsu Aegis, and really it's all about, and I think it really forms part of the group ethos, in that we're looking at how collectively we can provide that value to customers. Everything we do is built around the customer. Everything.
And I think that's very important because not enough businesses, as I think we are noticing, are customer-centric. They don't really put themselves in the shoes of the customer and then focus outwards. And as a result, we have a lot of mismatched products on the market which are great in their idea, yet the execution of them when it comes down to the consumer experience is severely lacking. So I imagine that this is one of the criteria that validated you as number one, is that you were able to do the customer centricity properly. So from your point of view, what is important about customer centricity and why do businesses need to focus on it?
Well, I mean, so again, I think you spot on the money there. I think this is certainly a bugbear for me, certainly within an agency landscape, is that often what happens is we're trying to push products into a customer versus actually understanding what customer needs really are. So for me, what that represents is understanding pain points that our customers have. So how where are they struggling to, if it's selling a vehicle or selling stuff online, how does that work? Where are their pain points? Number one, and number two is understanding the business objectives. I think often that's overlooked. It's generally, we're looking at from agencies that's coming out with creative campaigns and the execution, but really that all needs to tie back into the ultimate business objectives. So customer centricity is a model that we're working very aggressively on, and kind of putting the not our customer, our customer's customer first. And I think that's the key. If we can understand what our customers are looking for, we can ultimately close the loop and then really provide solutions that meet those needs. And the second part of that for me, Nick, is how we also then place that same value on the people that work within iProspect and within our other agencies. So the more we can focus on, getting our people to understand that, the consumer at the end of the value chain and understanding how we benefit them helps us drive that customer centricity from a business perspective.
So, of course, it's a very big change to make because I hear you saying a lot of things. And I imagine the barriers to entry into this idea are quite high. So if a business had to come to you guys and say, listen, we're in the need for big data, we're in the need for prospects, we're in the need for feedback because we need to enlarge our business, what's the first thing they need to do actively to be able to engage with the process?
Well, I mean, I think a number of factors here, and I think the first bit and the key that personally excites me quite a lot is that a brand or a potential customer, whoever it is, already sits on a large amount of data, right? So however that's handled, however the activations are, there's a large sum of data that really often is poorly understood. So I think one of the key values and what we look at doing is how do we take that data, disseminate it, make sense of that data, and from that you can start to understand sort of key patterns and behaviors of their customers. And really, once you understand that layer, I think then it becomes extremely easy to kind of plug and play different solutions in a digital landscape that help not only drive that customer engagement, but also the conversion. So for us, we're finding two things. One is our customers want to get new business, number one, and number two, they also want to retain their business. So I think, at the very heart of that, if we understand those two principles and we can use the data that they have, along with the data that we will accumulate over a period of time with them, we can start to really close the loop on both of those areas.
Absolutely. Now, of course, there is also the slightly lesser attractive side of gathering data and customer centricity. And often the only way to put yourself in the customer's shoes is to not only gather initial feedback in the form of questionnaires or interviews with actual physical customers, but tracking. Now, obviously, online, that's very easy. Cookies, etc., on your web browser, tracking where you do, what you click on, all your interests, etc. But of course, there has been quite a lot of backlash. In South Africa, we also have the POPI Act, that's protection of personal information. So how do you balance getting this information, providing a good customer experience, while at the same time maintaining the integrity and the privacy of your consumers?
Totally, and I think I think this is very key, and POPI certainly is something that we take very seriously, and certainly from a knowledge transfer from what we understand about POPI and implications that have on clients collecting data around customers is critical for to understanding the landscape. So there are many, as we know, online, there's many ways in which you can collect data, and but there's a responsibility aspect that comes with it. And so we work very closely with brands to help them understand what we can collect, how we collect it, and then also, what they are actually allowed to do with that data. A lot of the times, there are also ways in which we can do things smartly that doesn't actually impact on any of those legal implications or private information. So there's a lot in this landscape right now, and it's also quite a change in an evolving landscape which is happening. But for us, the key is we need to be the leaders and the experts in terms of understanding this, and then being able to transfer that knowledge to our customers, and ultimately in what gets delivered at the end of the day.
Brilliant. No, absolutely. And I suppose at the end of the day, if customers see that the data is being used responsibly and in such a way that's going to benefit their experience, I suppose they will be more open to having it tracked, as long as they know that their privacy is still being respected at the same time.
Absolutely.
Now, moving along from that, tell us about your plans for the year. 2015, of course, 2014 was a very rough year, especially for South Africa, for the economy, for business. 2015, at the moment, starting off early, doesn't look like it's too great, but I think a lot of things have stabilized in a sense that we are now getting a hold of the abnormal. So how is iProspect's plans looking for the year?
Well, I must say, 2014 was actually a really good year for iProspect, and I think in terms of our plans for 2015, my kind of remit is really to kind of unlock the sleeping giant that is iProspect in this country. So, a lot of people, and I've seen this, we're aware of the bigger players, etc. But actually, iProspect is this huge sleeping giant that, unfortunately and historically, we've been quite bad at kind of promoting and putting out to the market, but as a business and the people within this business, we have really key sort of thought leaders that I really want to push into a public domain so that we can actually help drive and grow not only our own business but also transfer that knowledge. That's the key, and that's for me at the heart of it all is really about creating value for customers and for the industry as a whole. So we're going on quite an aggressive sort of plan to really execute the brilliant work that we've done over the last few years, and certainly moving forward. And we want to, continue on some of the work that we did in 2014. So, for example, some of this, we did some really great work on YouTube last year, and we were one of the first to do this great work, and we did it with Mercedes-Benz, and it was a huge success. And we want to really take those successes, those learnings, and drive forward on that front. So we want to be very innovative, we want to be very agile, and we want to really kind of approach the landscape with open arms. So I think the advantage of where we find the digital space right now is I think brands really are not only seeing the value of digital, but understanding how they can understand what the return on the investment is. And so we're seeing quite a lot more spend happening. Brands are willing to spend more because things are just getting more expensive and there's less budget at the end of the day. So it really is about performance, and that's where we play beautifully into that because we're all about performance.
Yes, and of course, once they see the desired result, it may be a little bit difficult to part with the money. However, if they see that their return is increased more so than the investment into gathering the data initially, you've done your job and you've paid it forward 10 times.
Absolutely. I think I just want to say that I think if we, for me, the ultimate remit with our clients, what I would like us to do, and if we can do this, I think we've ticked the box, right? I want our clients to understand who their clients are, and I want them to understand how digital has helped either retain that client or convert that client. And I think if we can do that, it justifies the spend at the end of the day.
It really, really does. And as we draw towards the end of our interview, Justin, there's just one or two more things that I want to know. Of course, in South Africa, digitally, we are a little bit behind. The infrastructure is being laid out very slowly, and digital, whilst full of opportunity, is a little bit slow in this country, internet connections, etc. And the cost of getting something such as fiber or VDSL instead of ADSL can be very, very expensive. Would you suggest that businesses do upgrade to these things to future-proof themselves, or do you think that kind of capital outlay is going to be too much at this point?
Well, to be honest with you, I think we're starting to get to an area where certainly connectivity is starting to become a commoditized play, which I think we're finally moving into. Telecom have been rolling out 40 meg lines. There's a real push for high-speed quality connectivity, which I think is brilliant, and it plays perfectly into what we've seen from a global trend around video. So video is a big play, and we've seen a lot of local sort of video streaming things coming into the mix now as well. So from a business perspective, I think the investment now into that sort of connectivity backbone, if you will, is actually not such a big investment as it was, say, 5 years ago, where it really did cost a hell of a lot of money to kind of set the infrastructure up. So for us, and I think this is what excites me. I've been in this industry from a long time and watched how internet penetration has grown over the years, or struggled to grow through because of our infrastructure. But I really feel like we're at a tipping point now. I think, the more that we can have better access to quality data, it's just going to start opening up a whole new world of opportunity for us in a digital landscape in South Africa.
Yes.
And that experiential curve between where we find ourselves versus where the US, UK, and other developed regions are, we're closing that gap pretty quickly. Certainly from a consumer behavior online, that has been closed really quickly.
And it's brilliant. And I think obviously what you're saying has obviously changed my mind, because I always thought we were a little bit in the dark ages, but clearly it is going in the right direction, albeit very slowly. We are at least moving in that particular direction. And now finally, Justin, if business wants to get hold of you, how do they do so? Telephone numbers, emails, websites?
Well, I mean, the best way to get hold of us is to go to our website. It's iprospect.co.za. Give you a rough overview of all the different service offerings we have, but most importantly is our contact details. So we have offices in Joburg and Cape Town, and also people can understand, I think, have a look at some of the case studies that we have on the really, really powerful stuff, and looking at how the performance stuff that we've done actually has equated to real value for the brands that we work with. So definitely have a look at the website, iprospect.co.za, and get in touch with us. We'd love to have that conversation. Absolutely brilliant, Justin, and that brings us so wonderfully to the end of this edition of eBiz Wires. Thank you very much once again for taking the time to chat to me on eBiz Radio. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.